Hello from Beit and thank you for joining me in the study of Parashat Lecha. What went wrong? What went wrong with whom? So today we will try to explore a bit about Lot. Lot is a bit of a mysterious guy who joins Abraham and does many things with Abraham, and then there is a point in history where he deviates, where he basically chooses to take a different path. And what we would like to try to do today is to try to understand what went wrong with Lot. So the Torah begins with the following description. ויקח תרח את אברהם בנו, and Terach took Abraham his son, ואת לוט בן הרן בן בנו, and Lot, Terach's grandson, ואת שרי כלתו, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law who was married to Abraham, אשת אברהם בנו, ויצאו איתם מאור כסדים ללכת ארצה כנען, and they left אור כסדים to go to the land of Canaan, ויבואו עד חרן וישבו שם. And they went and they reached Haran and they settled there. Which means basically this pasuk equates everyone, all the biblical figures together, Terach, Abraham, Lot, Sarai, and they all go together as a family. And it seems to be that they are all basically in a way on the same level. And then we obviously fast forward when Lot and Abraham and Sarah go down to Egypt because there is famine in the land of Israel. And then Pharaoh takes Sarah and then he brings her back to Abraham. Basically, Pharaoh commands his servants, ויצב עליו פרעה אנשים וישלחו אותו ואת אשתו ואת כל אשר לו. So Pharaoh basically commanded his servants, take Abraham, take Sarah, take Lot, send them away from Mitzrayim, give them everything, give them all those gifts, but send them as a family. So we see even from this pasuk that Lot did not stay in Mitzrayim, he didn't stay in Egypt. He stuck with Abraham and Sarah. He remained loyal and faithful to Abraham and Sarah and went back to Haran. And then, ויעל אברהם ממצרים הוא ואשתו וכל אשר לו ולוט עמו הנגבה. So we see that Abraham and Sarah, they leave Egypt and they go to Negba, they go to probably to the south, and Lot is going with them. And it's interesting. We don't know much about Lot. We know a bit about Abraham, but it seems to be that Lot remains with Abraham. And really, we're going now to read a little bit of a lengthy paragraph about Lot. Because now we are going to talk about the point in history where Lot makes a fatal decision. He is going to leave Abraham. So let's see. וגם ללוט ההולכת אברהם היה צאן ובקר ואוהלים. That's interesting. The Torah takes the time and the sentence to basically describe Lot and to say that Lot, that also walked with Abraham, that he joined Abraham in all his journeys, he also had flock and cattle and tents, which means he was wealthy. ולא נשא אותם הארץ לשבת יחדיו, כי היה רכושם רב ולא יכלו לשבת יחדיו. The land that they had, that was allotted for them, was, I guess, too narrow, too small to accommodate them both. So they couldn't really sit together. ויהי ריב בין רועי מקנה אברהם ובין רועי מקנה לוט. So there was some kind of tension and even a fight between Abraham's shepherds and Lot's shepherds. והכנעני והפריזי אז יושב בארץ. And all the other nations that settled in the land of Canaan were there. And I think that this narrative basically tried to tell you that there is a fight, there is tension between the shepherds. It does not say that there is a fight between Abraham and Lot, which begs the question, what with them? Why don't they try to intervene, but they don't? But then this fight, this tension, in a way is spilling over the other nations that are in the land of Israel, which obviously creates some kind of a desecration of the name of God. You know, you're talking about Avraham, who is the man of kindness and justice and everything, and in his own family, there is a fight. So obviously this is not the most pleasant situation for Abraham. And therefore, it seems to be that the following sentence makes sense. ויאמר אברהם אל לוט, אל נא תהי מריבה ביני וביניך, ובין רועי ובין רועיך. כי אנשים אחים אנחנו. You know what? We need to stop it. It shouldn't create tension between me and you, between my shepherds and your shepherds, because we are brothers. Therefore, הלא כל הארץ לפניך. You have the entire land in front of you. היפרד נא מעלי, so we need to separate. You need to separate yourself from me. עם השמאל וימינה ועם הימין והשמאלה. If you take left, I'll take right. If you take right, I'll take left. So we can still remain brothers, but we just can't sit together because if we would, it will create too much tension. Now, it is interesting that Abraham, who is known to convert people, to open up his tent for everyone, to be so hospitable, when it comes to Lot, to his nephew, he realized that there is something that creates some kind of an obstacle, difficulty, and tension by both of them sitting together. Now, you would expect that Lot will tell Abraham the following. Oh, come on, uncle. Let's try to find a way to sit together. Let's try to figure it out. I wandered with you for all those journeys. I went with you to Egypt, I came back. Let's just try to stay together, but no. וישא לוט את עיניו וירא את כל כיכר הירדן, כי כולה משקה לפני שחט השם את סדום ואת עמורה, כי גן השם כארץ מצרים בואכת צוהר. Lot lifts his eyes, and he sees this valley, the Jordan Valley, that it's so blossoming and it's flourishing, and that was before God destroyed Sodom and Amorah. So he says, you know what, and it looks like כגן השם כארץ מצרים. I guess there was some kind of a Nile or a river that also watered everything that they have there, so it was great. And Lot says, you know what, I think I'm going there. ויבחר לו לוט, and Lot chose לשווא בערי הכיכר, את כיכר הירדן, ויסע לוט מקדם, and Lot left מקדם, east, ויפרדו איש מעל אחיו. And they separated a man from his brother. If you remember, Abraham told Lot, we are achim, we are brothers, and that's what Lot also felt to some extent. אברהם ישב בארץ כנען, Abraham settled in the land of Canaan, ולוט ישב בערי הכיכר, ויהה עד סדום. And Lot basically positioned himself in the Jordan, we'll call it valley or the square, but he was so wealthy, and he had so many tents, that he was basically extended his place until Sodom. ואנשי סדום רעים וחטאים להשם מאוד. And the people of Sodom were terrible people. Now, if we pause here, we see something interesting. Lot basically sticks with Avram for the entire way. Then, when he becomes very wealthy, and Avram is very wealthy as well, and they can't sit together, the most important thing that it seems to be that guides Lot is wealth. He lifts up his eyes, and he can see the land of Canaan too. That was really the destination that he went with Avram. But the minute he can see something that it looks wealthier, nicer, he goes there, even though it borders with Sodom, which was already known as a terrible place to live in. So Lot, in a way, prioritizing his life to wealth and then maybe some kind of spirituality. That's what it seems to be based on the narrative itself. והשם אמר אל אברהם, אחרי ייפרד לוט מאמו. So Hashem says to Avram, immediately after Lot separated himself from Abraham, שא נא עיניך וראה מן המקום אשר אתה שם, lift up your eyes and see, צפונה ונגבה וקדמה וימה, see for all four directions, and see what? See this land, כי את כל הארץ אשר אתה רואה לך אתננה ולזרעך עד עולם. I'm going to give you this land and to your descendants, which means something very interesting here. If we analyze just the narrative, we are not adding any commentaries or anything here, just the narrative itself, it seems to be that God waited to tell Abraham about the land as his inheritance until Lot left. And it seems to be that the focus, the emphasis, is what? Lecha ulezar'acha, to you and to your descendants. Now, hold on for a second. Abraham has no descendants yet. Abraham has no children. The only potential heir to Abraham was Lot. And now Lot is gone. And it seems to be that God wanted Lot to be gone, and then Abraham can really realize his full potential. Now, why? What went wrong with Lot? And especially when the one to initiate the separation was Abraham. So what exactly the narrative is trying to tell us? So if we fast forward, we know that there was a war between the 4 kings and the 5 kings, and then the 4 kings won the war, and they went ahead and captured Sodom and Amorah, and obviously Lot as well. And then it says, ויקחו את כל רכוש סדום ועמורה ואת כל אוכלם וילכו. So they captured all the wealth of Sodom and Amorah and all the property, and they went. ויקחו את Lot. They took Lot, and take a look. ואת רכושו, and his property. It seems to be that Lot is attached to his property, to his wealth. בן אחי אברהם, אברהמ's nephew, וילכו והוא יושב בסדום. ויבוא הפליט ויגד לאברהם העברי והוא שוכן באלוני ממרא, האמורי אחי אשכול ואחי הנר והם בעלי ברית אברהם. And then one of the refugees came to Avram and they told him about what happened to what? To Lot. So it's very interesting that even when the enemies came along and they captured Sodom, the narrative goes out of its way to tell you that they also captured Lot, but they also captured Lot's property. It seems to be that it's one unit, Lot and his property. I guess that the narrative is trying to portray Lot as someone who is very materialistic, and the most important thing for him, or what defined him as a person, was his rechush. But I would like to suggest that it's not the entire picture. Because we need to digress for a second and ask ourselves a very simple question. This is true. There is no question that Lot puts tremendous focus on wealth, property, money. But he was with Abraham for a while. Wasn't he influenced even a bit by what Abraham did and Sarah? By being with Abraham for so many years, Abraham was able to inspire everyone and was not able to inspire his own nephew. He was not able to encourage his own nephew to be a better person. So let's add one more component to this description before we come into any conclusions. So we all know the angels came along and they told Abraham that he's going to have a child, and then they go to what? To destroy Sodom. ויבואו שני המלאכים סדומה בערב, so the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, ולוט יושב בשער סדום, and Lot sits at the gate of Sodom. וירא לוט ויקום לקראתם וישתחו אפיים ארצה. So when Lot sees them, he stands up and he bows down. ויאמר, הננה אדוני סורו נא אל בית עבדיכם ולינו ורחצו רגליכם וישכמתם והלכתכם לדרככם. So he says to them, my masters, please come to my house, have a little food, shower, sleep, and then go quickly in the morning and leave. ויאמרו לא, כי ברחוב נלין. So the angel says, no, thank you very much, we are going to sleep in the street. ויפצר בה מאוד ויסורו אליו, so he's begging them, please come. So they agree. ויבואו אל ביתו, so they come to his house. ויעש להם משתה ומצות עפיו ויאכלו. So he created for them a very quick meal. By the way, according to Chazal, according to our sages, it might be that it was Erev Pesach. That's why he baked for them matzot, or we can say something very simple, matzot do not take so much time to bake, much less than bread. So he wanted to do things quickly, and that the people of Sodom and Amorah would not know that he has guests. טרם ישכבו, before they go to sleep, ואנשי העיר, אנשי סדום, נשא בו על הבית מנער ועד זקן כל העם מקצה. So before they go to sleep, all the people of Sodom and Amorah are basically coming together. They hear that Lot had guests, and they are angry. The mob is coming, and they want to what? To break into his house. ויקראו אל לוט ויאמרו לו, היה האנשים אשר באו אליך הלילה, הוציאם אלינו ונדעה אותם. So they call Lot and it says, bring those guests to us. We're going to what? We're going to kill them, basically. Now, before we continue, we definitely see that Lot was inspired by Abraham. Abraham's, one of his most famous characteristics was obviously he was very hospitable. And he did a lot for his host, for his guests. Lot definitely learned at least one lesson from Abraham. And look, Lot did it despite the fact that he knew that it's going to be very, very dangerous to have guests in Sodom. He invited them, the angels, and when the angels refused to come, Lot could basically stop the conversation and say, okay, thank you, I tried. You want to sleep in the street? Sleep in the street, I'll bring you a sandwich and we'll see you tomorrow morning if you are still alive. No, he insisted that they will come to his house. And let's continue. ויצא עליהם לוט הפתחה והדלת סגר אחריו. And Lot left the house and he closed the door and he started talking to the people. ויאמר, and he said, אל נא אחי תראו. Please, my brothers, don't be bad people. Now, stop here and think. Hear the association. Avram says to Lot, כי אנשים אחים אנחנו. We are brothers. After the separation, ויפרדו איש מעל אחיו. They separated a man from his brother. Lot goes to Sodom. And who are his true brothers now? The people of Sodom. He calls them Achai, my brothers. I understand that you can say brothers is just a language or this is just a way you refer to friends. But the fact that the narrative used the same wording, Achai, now Lot feels that his destiny, that his identity is with whom? Is with the people of Sodom. הנני לשתי בנות אשר לא ידעו איש, הוציאה נא את הן עליכם ועשו להן כטוב בעיניכם, רק לאנשים האל אל תעשו דבר, כי על כן באו בצל קורתי. So Lot is doing something which maybe sounds very pious, but it's terrible. He basically says, take my daughters, do whatever you want to them, just don't touch my guests. ואמרו גשלה, ואמרו אחד בא לגור, וישפוט שפוט, אתה נרע לך מהם, ויפצרו באיש בלוט מאוד, ויגשו לשבור Adalet. So the mob, the people of Sodom and Amorah says, what are you talking about? You just came here as a guest. You yourself, you are a foreigner. We gave you a permission to be here and you're going to tell us what to do? I think this verse is so striking and it creates such a contrast between the way Lot viewed the people of Sodom and the way the people of Sodom viewed Lot. Lot viewed them as my brothers. But they never saw him as a brother. They always saw him as a foreigner, someone who represents different values. So despite the fact that Lot tried to hide, or maybe he didn't learn much from Abraham, but he was different than Sodom. And the people of Sodom could not tolerate it. וישלחו האנשים את ידם ויביאו את לוט עליהם הביתה ואת הדלת סגרו. So the angels saw that it's not going to go any good place. Anywhere good, so they took Lot and they brought him into the house. ואת האנשים אשר פתח הבית היכו בסנוורים מקטון ועד גדול ואילו למצוא הפתח. So basically they created some kind of a plague and the mob became blind and they couldn't find the door. So the angel says to Lot, ואמרו האנשים אלות מי עוד לך פה חתן, בניך, בנותיך, כל אשר לך בעיר, הוצא מן המקום, כי משחיתים אנחנו את המקום הזה, כי גדלה צעקתם את פני השם וישלחנו השם לשחתה. They tell Lot, go ahead, quickly, take everyone, take your son-in-laws, take your daughters, take your wife, take everyone that is part of your family, get out of here, we will get you out of here, because we are going to destroy this city. So, ויצא לוט וידבר אל חתניו לוקחי בנותיו. So Lot talks to his son-in-laws, which means he was already settled in Sodom. He was part of Sodom. He married off some of his daughters to Sodomites, to people who were from Sodom and Amorah. He was part of them, and they still saw him as a foreigner. And in order to really cement this point, you can see in the verse that says to him, ויאמר קומו צאו מן המקום הזה כי משחית השם את העיר. Lot says to his son-in-laws, hey, we need to pack up. We need to get out of here. God is going to destroy this place. ויהי כמצחק בעיני חתניו. His son-in-laws basically looked at him and says, are you a clown? Are you joking with us? We are not going anywhere. They were so far, they were so removed from anything that Lot represented. They had zero faith in God. They definitely did not believe in hospitality. And they had zero respect to Lot. In their eyes, they were lokchei bnotav. They took his daughters, which means they always felt superior over Lot. Lot made a terrible decision, not only leaving Abraham, but also trying to attach himself to people who were totally the opposite from him. וכמו השחר עלה, ויעיצו המלאכים בלוט לאמור, קום קח את אשתך את שתי בנותיך הנמצאות פן תיספה בעוון העיר. So dawn came along, and the angel says to Lot, move quickly. Take your wife, take your two daughters who are not married, and we are out of here. ויתמהמה. I would like to suggest that this word, which also has a shalshelet, which is a very long tune, shows something incredible. The narrative is hinting into a tremendous struggle within Lot's soul. Lot understands that he can't go back to Avram. He left. He does not belong with Sodom and Amorah, and they are about to destroy them. Sodom and Amorah are going to be destroyed. He's going to be left alone. He, his wife, and his two daughters. Vayitmahama. He delayed his response. He didn't run with the angels yet, and he was like, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know where he belongs. He didn't know what to do with his decision that was uneducated, too impetuous, no thinking, separating himself from Abraham, and he's now looking at all his wealth and all his property. And everything goes quickly in front of his eyes, and it's all going to be gone. ויחזיקו האנשים בידו, the angels basically grabbed his hand, וביד אשתו וביד שתי בנותיו. So the angels basically grab everyone by the hand, בחמלת השם עליו, because God has had compassion on him. ויניחו מחוץ לעיר. They take him out and they put him outside of the city. ויהי כי הוציאה אותם החוצה, so when they take them out, ויאמר ימלט על נפשך, אל תביט אחריך, ואל תעמוד בכל הכיכר, ההר ימלט פן תספה. Just go, run for your life. And Lot has one request. He says to them, please, my masters, I know I found favor in your eyes, and you did to me tremendous mercy. אנוכי לא אוכל להימלא את ההר, פן תדבקני הרעה ומתי. I can't go there. I will die. I'm asking you to please give me this little city. It's called Tzoar, and I will remain there. I'm skipping a bit. Hashem destroys Sodom and Amorah. And then his wife, Lot's wife, basically looks back, and she becomes a pillar of salt. And then it says, וישכם אברהם בבוקר אל המקום אשר עמד שם את פני השם. Abraham wakes up in the morning, early in the morning, and he stands in a place and he looks around. וישקף על פני סדום ועמורה ועל פני כל ארץ הכיכר. וירא והנה עלה קיטור הארץ כקיטור הכבשן. So Avram looks at Sodom and Amorah, and it's all destroyed. And then, we all know the story. ויעל לוט מצוהר, וישב בהר ושתי בנותיו עמו, כי ירא לשבת בצוהר, וישב במערה הוא ושתי בנותיו. So Lot sits in Zohar, and then he's afraid to sit there. Maybe he was traumatized. He thought that maybe God is going to destroy that city as well. So he goes and he hides in a cave with his two daughters, and we all know what happened at the end. If we pause here and we think about Lot's life, we see that he basically attached himself to Avram, but we don't know exactly what is the extent that he allowed himself to be influenced by Abraham. We know that he definitely took some parts that Abraham taught him, like hospitality, but at the same time we know that he was very greedy, and wealth and property and money basically defined him, very much unlike Abraham, who told the king of Sodom, I'm not going to take from you even a shoelace, nothing. I'm not going to take from you a thing, because I don't want you to say that you made me wealthy. So what went wrong? Why did Lot make such poor choices? Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch portrays Lot in a very negative light. And he says the following: וגם ללוט ההולך את אברהם, היה צאן ובקר ואוהלים. If you remember, that was the first verse that was the opening statement to the story about the fact that the shepherds, the Lot's shepherds and Avram's shepherds had a fight because there was too much wealth. He says, אברהם מנוגן בטעם אתנח. גם ללוט ההולך את אברהם, אך בטרם יזכור הכתוב מה היה לו, הרי הוא שוהה כמעה, ואנחנו טועים בליבנו. למה אפשר לצפות מלוט? Which means, you need to read the verse the following way. וגם ללוט, and also to Lot, ההולך את אברהם, pause. And Rabbi Shimshon Raphael here suggests that the narrative puts the pause there in order for us, the readers, to start wondering, okay, Lot was walking with Avram, so I'm sure that Avram influenced him. Avram made him a wonderful person. You walk with such a person like Avram for so many years, you are probably going to be like his assistant, or you're going to imitate him. And then says Rabbi Shimshon Raphael here is the surprise. אין לוט היה קרובו של אברהם. הוא לא רק הלך עם אברהם, אלא הלך את אברהם, היה קרוב לו קרבה יתרה. Lot was really attached to Abraham. So you would think that obviously he was like him. ואין אברהם הכניס לביתו עוברי אורח למרות הבדידות שהיה שרוי בה. במידת הכנסת אורחים מעוררת ליבם להכיר את האל, היוצר את האדם בצלמו וגואל אותו משאיפותיו האנוכיות, ומעורר בו את הרצון להיות ברכה ולא רק להיות ברוך. Avram was the one to host people and basically to inspire them to recognize God, but also to recognize the image of God in every person. To be a blessing, not only just to be blessed, but to be a blessing to others. והנה הוא אומר כאן, וגם ללוט הנלווה אל אברהם והולך איתו, and here also to Lot, who basically attached himself to Avram and walks with him, גם הוא קיבל דבר מאברהם ורכש לו דבר משלו. He also acquired something from Abraham. And what was that? צאן, בקר ואוהלים. Flock, cattle, and tents. הוא לא קנה דבר מחלקו הרוחני של אברהם. He did not take anything spiritual from Abraham. הוא ליווה את אברהם, he escorted אברהם, שכן הדבר הביא לו תועלת. Because it was beneficial. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch wanted to claim that the only reason for Lot to escort Avram everywhere he went was only because it was beneficial for him. It was something that gave him advantage. The minute that Lot felt that it's becoming a disadvantage, he left. So yes, it might be that someone can be with someone inspiring as Avram and can learn zero, nothing, because he looks at his attachment to this person as only something that can bring him benefit. That's what Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. However, the Netziv said something different. He says, כמו אברהם הגיע לזה בשביל חוכמתו, דכל אדם באו לשאול לו בעצה או בתפילה או דבר חוכמה, כמו שכתבנו לאל. He says, like Avraham was a sage, and people came to him to ask for an advice, to ask for his wisdom, כך היו נדרשים ללוט. He says the same thing with Lot. באשר הוא היה אמצעי בין אברהם ובין הבאים לפניו להגיד להם דעת אברהם. He says, Lot was like a mediator. When people couldn't see Avraham, they went to Lot because they trusted that he will convey the same message that Avraham did. וגם נתחכם יותר בזה האופן. ולוט עמו משמעו מקורב יותר מלשון איתו. והוא משום שעד כה היה לוט בתורת משרת פשוט, אבל במצרים הגיע לו להיות בתורת תלמיד המקבל. The Netziv views Lot as someone who grew. At the beginning he was like Avram's servant, but after that he became like his student. But based on this interpretation, we need to ask ourselves, okay, so what went wrong? From being Avraham's disciple to become someone who is very far away from being Avraham's disciple, and it might be, and this is my suggestion, that perhaps according to the Netziv interpretation, Lot did not want to stay with Avraham because he thought, I don't want to be a student anymore. I want to be my own teacher. I want to be my own person. I'm going to break away from Avraham and do my own thing. The problem was, he was just not ready. And because he was not ready, he chose to be with Sodom and Amorah. And maybe that was his reason to choose Sodom and Amorah, someone that was so evil, to show that he learned even more than Avraham. But he failed. We will conclude with what Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says, not so much about Lot, but about Avraham. ניסיון קשה עבר על אברהם. Avraham went through a difficult trial. שעה שבן אחיו נפרד מאמו. When Lot separated himself from him. Lot ייצג את הדור השני שעתיד לחיות אחרי מותו. Lot was basically his descendant. He was the one who was able to carry Avram's legacy. ובהיות אברהם חסוך בנים, הוא תלה בו את תקוותו להמשך שליחותו. Avram was thinking, really, who is my descendant? It's probably Lot. והנה הוא פרש ממנו. Lot separated himself. הוא נפתע אחרי היתרונות החומריים והעדיף את השותפות עם סדום ועמורה. Lot basically showed Avram, don't count on me. I'm going the other side. I'm going with the wealthy people. You are talking to me about spiritual inheritance. Not interested. באותה שעה אמר השם לאברהם. That was the moment when Hashem told Abraham, לך אתן את הארץ הזאת. I'm going to give it to you, not to Lot. I will give this land. השגשוג החומרי אינו בראש מעייניך. To be wealthy, it's fine, it's nice for Avraham, but that's not his goal. משום כך תזכה אתה בארץ הטובה. And this is the reason why you are going to be the worthy person to what? To inherit this land. אני אתננה לך ולזרעך היוצא אחריך. אל לך לחזר על פתחי אחרים כדי לרכוש את ליבם לשליחותך. You don't need to try to find other people to carry on your legacy. העם הנקרא בשמך, the nation that will have your name, they must come from you. אתה תולידנו ותחנכנו ברוחך הטהורה. You're going to give birth to these descendants, and you're going to want to educate them. ההיפרדות מלוט חידדה את המסר לאברהם. After that separation, according to Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, she claims that it sharpened the message to Avraham. I'm going to give this land to your descendants. The heir who is going to carry on the legacy will be Yitzchak, bna shel Sarah ve'Avraham. He's going to be the son of Avram and Sarah, not Avraham and Agar, not Lot. It's going to be Yitzchak. And this son, this Mezinkale, this youngest son, and the only son that Avram and Sarah had, it will be a mockery, it will be a joke. Avram is 99, Sarah is 86, and this child, how is this child going to carry on the legacy? Says Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, אם נשים לב רק להשתלשלות הטבעית, הרי זה מגוחך בתכלית כהררים התלויים בסערה. Your descendant, the entire Avram's legacy is going to lie on what? On Yitzchak's shoulders. Young guy, basically was born in such an old age. The answer is yes. ראשית העם היהודי הרי היא מגוחכת. The inception of the Jewish people is a joke. One son to carry on a legacy, to create a family, to create a nation. If you will tell it to someone, he will laugh at your face. But Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says, that's exactly the point. משום כך, המתין הקדוש ברוך הוא לגיל המגוחך של אבות האומה. Hashem waited for Avraham to become old, and only then he started fulfilling his promises. רק מי שקלטה כל תקווה אנושית. Only when, in a way, everything else on earth was exhausted, there is no one there. Avraham looks at God's promises. I'm going to give you the land, and I'm going to give your descendants, and he has no one. His own potential heir, Lot, is gone. Everything is laughable. You tell me that this little son is going to carry on my legacy? Says Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. מראשית ימיו ועד אחרית ימיו, from the beginning of the Jewish nation until the end of times. הוא יעמוד בניגוד לכל הכוחות הפועלים בהיסטוריה. The Jewish nation will stand in odds to all the powers of history. ועד היום הזה הוא מגוחך לחלוטין בעיני הסכלות הכופרת באל. Everyone who looks at the Jewish people make laugh. They're laughing at us. Oh, they are too moral, they are too ethical. They are not going to carry God's legacy. הצחוק המהדהד באוזני היהודי בלכתו בדרכו בהיסטוריה. Jews, all over the time of history, they were mocked. They were laughed at. But that's עדות על דרכו האלוקית. This is a testimony for our divine mission. אין הוא פוגע בו. We are not being insulted by people mocking us. שכן הוא מוכן מראש לצחוק הזה. We are ready. We know. We were chosen when there was no one else. And yes, people can laugh at us, people can mock us, people can try to do many things to us. But since Avram went on his journey, and Yitzchak was chosen to be the one, we are already in a way immune to all the criticism. And we have a destiny in mind to get to. So what went wrong with Lot? Everything. He was never there for the spiritual inheritance. You can spend so many years with someone so inspiring like Avraham and get nothing from it, because your perspective on it is just, what is there for me? Avraham was never like that. Yitzchak was never like that. And this is the Jewish people. We are not here just because of how is that good for me. We understand we have a mission. And we are the ones that God promised to Avraham, לזרעך אתן את הארץ הזאת. To your descendant I will give this land. Because ושמרו את דרך השם. They will be the people who safeguard the path of God. Thank you.